Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Should I read? Today I'll be doing another reading vlog. This time I'm doing the best romances from the Goodreads Choice Awards. So for those who don't know, I've been doing this series for a while now. I believe this is my third one, hopefully my third one, or my second one, depending on when I finish the other one that I'm currently also filming at the same time. But basically, short story is that I'll be reading the top books in the Goodreads Choice Awards per category, per genre, and I'll be going through all of them with the exceptions of books that I already read, books that I have no interest in reading, or books that are in a series that I will not catch up to. So those are kind of my basic criteria for the books I'll be choosing. So let's get into the books that I will be reading for the best romances. So this is the first time so far where I think there's only like 5 or 6 books that I'll actually be reading from this list, because a lot of them I read, I think, and there's also quite a number that I just have no interest in reading. So I'm just going to go through every single one of them from the Goodreads Choice Award. The first one over here is Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I will not be reading. I already read this book. The next one over here is Verity by Colleen Hoover, which I will be reading, which I'm actually pretty excited for because I've heard some amazing things about this book, and honestly I cannot wait, because Colleen Hoover, for the most part, for me, I've enjoyed her books in the past, so I have pretty high hopes for this one. The third book over here is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This one was actually my choice to win. I gave this book 4 stars, so I will not be reading this book because I already read it. By the way, I will probably be listening to Verity on audiobook. So the next book over here is Things You Save in a Fire by Kathleen Center. This is a book that I will be reading. I read her first book recently. I think it's her debut. It's How to Walk Away. I really enjoyed that book. It just caught me off guard. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, so I have really high hopes for this one as well. Then the next book over here is The Bride Test by Helen. I am actually going to, this is most likely so I will be reading this one, but I have to read the first book first, which is The Kiss Quotient. This one, I actually don't know if it's like a direct sequel or if it's like a companion novel or something. I have no idea, to be honest, but I do know that this is the first one in the series, so I am going to read this one first and then I'll pick up The Bride Test. For The Bride Test, I most likely will also be listening it to as audiobook. But I've heard some amazing things about this book. I've also heard some problematic things, I think. I'm not sure about that, but either way though, I'm pretty intrigued by the romance. And the next book over here is The Savior by J.R. Ward. I will not be reading this book. I have no interest in it, and it's also book 17, so yeah, I'm not going to read this one. Then the next one is The Kiss Thief by L.J. Shen. This is one that I will not be reading as well. I have no interest in it. The next book is The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. I actually have read this book already, so I will not be reading it again. Then the next book is one that I will be reading, and that is Pretty Reckless by L.J. Shen. Originally I wasn't going to pick up this book, but I think Madison was the one who read it somewhat recently and had high praise for it, so I figured I might as well, because I really don't have that many books on this list this time that I'll be reading, so I figured why not pick it up and see for myself. The next one over here is The Girl He Used to Know by Tracy Garvez Graves. This is one that I would not be reading. I have heard about this one, but I just have no interest in reading it. Next one over here is Aisha at Last by Uzma Jalaluddin. I hope I pronounced her last name correctly. This one I also will not be reading, just had no intention of reading it, period. The next one over here is The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. This is one I also will not be reading. I just didn't have an interest in it. Then the next one is The Wedding Party by Jasmine Guillory. This is one that I will not be reading as well. There's also the third book in the series, so I don't know if this is a series where you have to read the first one, or I have no idea, but either way, I just didn't have an interest in this one either. Then the next one on this list is Meet Cute by Helena Hunting. This is one that I will be reading. I've heard some mixed reviews about this book, to be honest, but it seemed like it'd be really cute. I mean, it says Meet Cute, the cover is cute, so I don't know, who knows, but this is one that I will be reading. Then the next one is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This is one that I will not be reading because I already read it. Next one is Sapphire Flames by Ilona Andrews. This is one that I will also not be reading. This is also book 4 in the series, just no interest in reading it whatsoever. But to be honest, this is actually the last book that I'll be reading, but I'm just going to go through the rest of them very quickly. The next book over here is Beard Necessities by Penny Reed. This is one that I have no interest in reading it. Never had an interest in reading it, so I will not be reading it. Next one over here is The Best Thing by Mariana Zapata. Again, this is one that I just had no interest in reading it, so I will not be reading it. Then this next one is The Wallflower Wager by Tessa. I actually was considering this one, but because this is the third book in a series, and again, I don't know if they're related, or like you have to read the first one. I have no idea, so I figured I would just not pick it up because I really don't want to go to the third book in a series. Like I have to read so many more before that. Otherwise, if it wasn't for that, I would have probably picked up this book because I've heard some pretty good things about Tessa recently. So the last one on this list is Brazen and the Beast by Sarah McLean. This is one that I will also not be reading. So anyways, that is it in terms of this intro. Basically, I have 6 books that I want to read. I have these 3. I have Pretty Reckless, which I will listen to audiobook if I can find it, or ebook. I will have the first book, the second one, which is The Bright Test, and then Verity. So those 3 will either be on audiobook or through ebooks depending on how I can find it. But this is honestly so far my most manageable pile on this for this vlog series. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have watched it already, but my fantasy one, I have 13 books to read on there. So pray for me, guys. Though by the time this video is out already, it probably will be out already for that one, or maybe not because this one's shorter. I don't know, guys. So anyways, that is it in terms of this intro, this very convoluted intro. Let me know down below if you have read any of the books on this list, the Goodreads Choice Awards, if you have read any of the books that I will personally be picking up. Let me know what your thoughts are on, and if you agree with me at the end of the video. But the next time I see you guys will be after I finish reading the first book. So by the way, I don't think I mentioned this already, but I will be updating you guys after each book that I read, so I can give you guys a better summary as well as my thoughts after reading the book. So anyways, I will check back in later with the book that I have decided to pick up. All right, so I am jumping in quickly to give us a quick update. I actually did finish this one book, the first book for this vlog, which I started months ago at this point, and I finished it actually a few weeks ago, and I haven't actually gotten a chance to jump on and talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it now. And that is Things You Say to Fire by Catherine Center. This one I actually gave 5 stars. I really like it. This is the second book that I've read from her, and at this point I can confidently say that she's probably a must-buy / must-read author for me, because there's just something about her writing that is just so easy to read, and something with her characters and her plot that is just so easy for me to digest and love. And I don't know, I just really like this book. So this book follows a girl, her name is Cassie, who is a firefighter, and the book starts off with her at a ceremony where she is being presented the Valor Award, which I guess is like one of the highest firefighter award that she can possibly get. And something happens. Not gonna go into it, but she finds herself in a situation with her job, and at the same time she actually gets a phone call from her mother asking if she can actually live with her for a year because something happened to her eye and she's actually going blind, so she kind of needs someone to take care of her during the meantime. And Cassie at first is like no, because they actually have a very strained relationship, and I guess also for firefighters it's really hard for them to be transferred. You have to work for a very long time at that location, at that department, before you can possibly get promoted and stuff. Some sort of like process there, and if she moves there, it's not just for 1 year. Like she will need to basically restart her career and essentially dedicate herself to that town for at least a few years to get anywhere for her career. So she is basically very not thrilled to go there, but because of this incident that happened at the Valor ceremony and the subsequent consequences, she ends up agreeing to go help her mother. Of course, she's also being like a good daughter as well. Like that's also part of a reason, but the other part was because of what happened at the ceremony. And so this book kind of just follows the aftermath of that, and there's romance in here because what she writes is usually a romance. It's like contemporary romance, and it is just so good. Like there's just something about the characters, the plot, and just learning more about firefighters and kind of like the dynamics between what it's like being a female firefighter versus being a male firefighter, and kind of the expectations versus different gender roles, I guess. And I don't know, I just feel like the author did a really good job of describing all of that and making it make sense for me. Some of them I just feel like, okay, so my camera decided to run out of space, but what was I saying before? Something about gender roles and kind of how the author did a really good job with describing the gender differences between a female firefighter and a male firefighter, which I feel like I just never really thought about because it's what, like 2020 now, and it just never occurred to me that there can be such a huge difference between the roles of whether you're a girl or a guy. But I mean, at the same time, it kind of makes sense, especially because the department that she ends up transferring to be closer to her mom is actually a very small town department. So I guess they're like a little bit behind, but yeah, overall, like I really like this book. It is super fascinating, and I just had a really good time reading it. It was also a really fast read. It's not very long. It's just like under 300 pages, I think, or like just over it, I'm not sure, but it is really fun. It is a very quick read. I really like the characters. The romance is also really cute as well. Like I really like the romance because I felt like it was super obvious, and when it kind of like is known to the main character, to Cassie. I am like, how did you not know this? And it's just super sweet. So overall, I really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend this book so far. So yeah, first read of my romance Goodreads reading vlog here, and hopefully the rest of the books will be as really as good. I feel like for the most part, this is the third reading vlog that I'm doing for the series, and all the time, every single time so far, the first book that I pick up has been 5-star reads, and then after that, every single book after that is just like, does not live up to my expectations or the hype anymore. So I'm hoping that this will change for this one, because I don't know, I really like this book so far, guys. So I have pretty high expectations for the rest of the books. Like, fingers crossed, guys. Hey guys, so I have not updated this vlog in a very long time, but I want to jump in and update you guys on Meet Cute by Helena Hunting. This book was actually really freaking cute. I don't know why I had such trepidation going into it, but I give this book 4 stars. So this book first starts off when they were in law school and they had their meet cute situation, and she kind of like falls all over him, goes all fangirly on him, and they actually become like kind of close to each other, like friends in a way. But then like something happens where she realizes that he betrays her, and 5 years later they now haven't talked to each other in so long, and one day he shows up at her law firm and basically needs her help now with taking care of his 13-year-old sister, and becomes the guardian to his sister because of something that happens. So this book is a little bit different than I expected as well, because while there is a lot of romance in here, it does follow a whole custody battle between the guy and his aunt. So I don't know if this is a trigger warning for some people, but this is definitely, I would say that the custody battle is like a good portion of this book. So if you don't really like that, or if you realize that that's not cup of tea, then I don't recommend this book. But I don't know, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was really well done. I really like the characters. I really enjoy learning about their friendship and kind of understand each other more, and just like the roller coasters of how they felt and what happened between the two of them 5 years ago, and how they're mending their friendship and relationship now. I really enjoy that ride. So for me, I really like this book. I can definitely see why people don't though, just because it isn't what you really expected. I mean, the custody battle does play a huge role in it, which is not what I expected at all. So definitely go into it knowing that. So if you are aware of that, I think you'll be fine. But other than that though, I really liked it, guys. I thought it was a really cute book. I flew through it. I just like want to know more. And yeah, like I really like this book. It was a really cute book, guys. That's all I can really say. There's really not much else to say about this book, but it was a very fun, entertaining read. Like, that's it. So anyways, that's it in terms of this update. Very quick update, but it was a very quick read as well. So anyways, I'll check back in once I get to another book. Okay, so I have managed to read some more books for this vlog. Right now it is currently mid-November, so hopefully by the time, I think I have like, at this point I have like 2 more books to read, but they're both ebooks because I cannot find them on audiobook and I don't have the physical copies of them. So like I need to read them as an ebook format, and that is a struggle right now. Like I'm just not in the mood for ebooks, so hopefully I get around to reading them soon though. But I am jumping in today to give you guys an update on the bride test, which I did manage to finish. I want to say it's been a while, to be honest. I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago. So my memories for this book is not exactly the greatest because I have been terrible at updating, guys. But I also managed to finish reading the previous book for that, which is The Kiss Quotient, which I also really enjoyed. So both books I really enjoyed. I do prefer The Kiss Quotient more. I think I'm giving that book 4 stars, whereas The Bride Test, I'm giving that book 3 stars. I feel like it was, I think The Bride Test for me had more of a instant love going on, which was weird because the premise of it and kind of the way how their interactions went, that didn't seem to be the case at all. But I think it's just because it was just so short of a time frame. It was literally within 2 months or so that it just felt like it was very condensed and very jam-packed with, you know, their like love affair and everything. So that was my only issue, as opposed to why I gave this book 3 stars versus The Kiss Quotient, which I gave 4 stars. I feel like that book, I don't remember the exact timeline for that one, but it felt like it was spread out longer, like over a longer duration of period of time, which I could be wrong, but it felt like that to me. So yeah, that's basically why I am giving that book a higher rating, I guess, versus The Bride Test. But both are really good. So The Bride Test basically follows this girl who is from Vietnam, and she doesn't know who her father is. She is of mixed race. She's half Vietnamese and half American. no idea who her father is. Even the mother doesn't really know who the father is. All the mother knows is that the dad's name was called Philip, and that was it. And so she grew up her entire life not even knowing who her father is, and one day this woman comes up to her and basically proposes the idea of going to America for 2 months and basically marrying her son at the end of it. She's like, why don't you give it a try? There's no risk for you. You go there, you enjoy 2 months in America, go to some weddings, eat some good food, have some fun. Maybe you will like my son, maybe you won't like my son, but if you do like my son, like, I would like for you to marry him, etc. Because she thinks that her son needs a lot of help with the love department because he is technically on the autistic spectrum. I think that's how you call it. I'm not really sure, to be honest. But yeah, so he technically has, I want to say it's Asperger's, just like the main character in The Kiss Quotient. It's very unique. I've never read a book like this before, like on my end at least, so I was learning a lot. I feel like I learned a lot from both of them just because I really don't know too much in terms of Asperger's. So anyways, that's the premise of the book. She goes there, the son is like super not into it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He's very much like, this is my life, I like the way how it is, etc, etc. And so of course, like, as days go by, weeks go by, they end up falling in love. And yeah, so anyways, that is basically the synopsis of the book. I really enjoyed it. Like I said already, my only issue was it just felt like it was all condensed into a very short period of time frame, and it didn't seem super realistic that they will fall in love that quickly. But I mean, it's contemporary romance. Other than that though, it was super cute. I really enjoyed. I think my favorite part for me at least was just learning more about Asperger's and like reading all the chapters from Kai's point of view, just because I felt like it was just something that I am not familiar with, and I felt like I was being educated. So I really like that part. But yeah, other than that though, I really enjoyed this book. It was a very good, cute read, and I definitely recommend both books, to be honest. I also feel like in a way I was reading like half smut because there were a lot of steamy scenes, way more in the first book though versus the second book. I feel like the first book just had a lot more because of who the guy is. I mean, he was an escort, so you know, versus in this book he definitely is a little bit more inexperienced, but there's definitely a lot of smut scenes in here, like both books for sure. So definitely be aware of that if you're gonna pick up this book or the series. Anyways, that is it in terms of this update. Very quick, but I want to jump in here and just give you an update for it, and hopefully I get to finishing the other 2 books as soon as possible. Okay, so just jumping on quickly to give you guys an update and basically just finish up this vlog. Hopefully this goes out tomorrow, like that's kind of my plan right now. I have some news. So first of all, I had 2 books that I was going to read. I had Verity and the Reckless one. Unfortunately though, I couldn't find the Reckless one. I had an ebook version of it from the library, but for whatever reason, all the libraries I have access to, like in New York and LA, for some reason they only had the German version. So obviously I was not going to read that, period. So that was not really helpful for me. And then for Verity, there was actually a huge line for it, so I couldn't borrow it in time. So I ended up getting an Audible credit for it. So I ended up listening to it on audiobook. So yeah, that's kind of why I didn't end up finishing the Reckless one, because I'm like, I don't have access to a copy of it anymore. I thought I did, but it's in German, can't read it, and I wasn't sure if I really wanted to pay for an Audible credit for it, whereas I had already an Audible credit that was rolled over from something else. So I basically had to use that 1 credit and decide which book that I wanted to prioritize. So I ended up going with Verity because I've heard a lot of great things about it, and the Reckless one was kind of more of a new author for me. So I was like, I'd rather go with one that I am more familiar with, and I really enjoyed her work. Plus I've heard amazing things from the author, so that's kind of how I made my decision. So I ended up reading Verity, and that's all the books I'm going to read for this vlog. And this book I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. So this book basically follows a woman who is a suspense thriller novel writer, and she's kind of a recluse. She doesn't really like to interact with people. She's been taking care of her mother for the past few months, I think a year or so, and since then she hasn't really gone out. She doesn't really like interacting with her readers. She's basically one of those recluse authors. And so one day she ends up getting an offer from her agents asking if she would like to be a ghostwriter or co-writing this super popular series with the author Verity. And so it turns out that Verity has some sort of huge accident, and because of this accident she is no longer able to really write. And of course the publishers were like, well, we want someone to kind of co-write this with her and just kind of finish the series, because the series is so well beloved and they just don't want it to go to waste. So she gets hired to basically co-write this really popular series for Verity, and she ends up going to Verity's home and kind of like living with her husband and her one kid, her remaining son, just so she's able to go through all of the notes and some of the previous manuscripts, etc, etc. That way she's able to actually write for the rest of the series. And the thing about Verity is that something has gone on with her family. They call them, what is it, like there's a word like the chronics, I think, where they just constantly have all of these really bad accidents. So what happened was that like about a year prior, they ended up losing both of their daughters, their twin daughters. One was due to an allergy reaction and the other one was due to a boating accident. And then shortly after, Verity got into that car accident herself. So the only ones remaining right now in that family house is the husband, their remaining son, and Verity, who has survived her car accident. And the book just kind of follows through what happens when she goes there. She intended to live there for just a few short days just to get all the notes and manuscripts and then leave, go back to New York, but because of circumstances and financial situations, she ends up staying there. And the book just kind of follows the whole journey as she uncovers all this crazy stuff. And the most astonishing thing is that she ends up uncovering this manuscript, this autobiography that Verity was writing for herself. She goes into details about how her and Jeremy, her husband, had met all those years ago, kind of the events leading up to the daughter's accidents, etc. And it was a wild ride. I did not expect it to the way how it went. I was constantly shocked by it. I remember just going like, what is going on? There were just so many crazy incidences. I love the plot twists and turns. It was so fast. It was so engaging. I really enjoyed just reading about how the author herself, like the main character, was just trying to figure out like what is real, what is not real. And then the ending was just huge, like mind-blowing. I was like, I did not expect that at all. But I can also see that because I didn't expect it, I should have expected it. You know what I mean? Sometimes when something is just so out there, you're like, you don't expect it, but that's usually when, you know, you should expect it. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book. I highly recommend it. So overall, I feel like this whole romance genre for me for Goodreads choice was a huge hit. I didn't really read any bad books. All my books were, I think my lowest rating was like a 3-star. Everything else was a 4 or 5-star, which honestly is like a very solid read for me. So overall, I'm like super happy that I have read all this. Let me know down below if you have managed to read any of these books from the Goodreads Choice Award. As of right now, I do have plans to continue on with this reading vlog series sometime next year. So I'm definitely excited to see which are the winners for 2020. But anyways, that's all to say for this video. As always, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe down below, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!